I hope you're all appropriately depressed by now, or at least nervous enough to raise a torrent of questions. But before we get to that, there will be, as I said, there will be an open forum, and we will also ask those that are in the Meralco room to start thinking of your questions, as I will also try to get questions from your end over there. But before we get to the open forum, we do have a panel here that will also pitch in with the reactions to the presentation. And our panel members consist of Mr. Omar Cruz, Executive Vice President and Chief Investment Officer of the Philippine American Life and General Insurance Company. He also served as the Treasurer of the Philippines from March 2005 to May 2007. A renowned economist and financial expert, even prior to his stint with the government, Mr. Cruz was a key senior officer at Citibank, overseeing several groups such as Treasury, Risk Management, and Private Banking. We also have Dr. Laura Ignacio, Senior Economist, Center for Monetary and Financial Policy, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. She is involved in research on monetary, financial, and economic issues. And then we have Dr. Zhuzhong Zhuang, did I get that right? Deputy Chief Economist, Economics and Research Department of the Asian Development Bank. His current research focuses on various development issues in Asia, including growth, poverty and inequality, structural transformation, and the economics of climate change. From 1992 to 1997, he was a research officer of the Development Economics Research Program at the London School of Economics. Let us begin with our discussion and may I call first on Mr. Omar Cruz.
Thank you, Dr. De Ocampo. I'd like to thank AIM for inviting me to give, I guess, the investor or business perspective to this thing. I will leave the more thorough, I guess, and comprehensive academic analysis, to my colleagues here on the table. But I guess in so doing, just simply give you a simple view, from, I guess, business and the investor perspective. I think the presentation this afternoon is very interesting in that, where we come from. I think we've seen, I guess, the rotation of axis. But, once upon a time, emerging markets, and including, I guess, countries such as the Philippines, were really reeling in these types of problems, which pertain to both fiscal and very serious monetary imbalances. And then, I guess, unwittingly, or whatever, when the subprime crisis came, all of a sudden, voila, you have the developed markets, that now have precisely the problems, that emerging markets, were facing then. At that time, I guess, the Latin American countries, and now it's the U.S. that's facing a very serious imbalance in both fiscal, and in monetary terms, and then, of course, followed by what is happening in Europe. I guess I would like to agree with the professor in saying that it's not about keeping interest rates low, but it's really all about balancing fiscal, monetary, and maybe even current account risks, and this is really what I think is what is guiding market risk aversion, or appetite. At the end of the day, I think people will keep out of markets that have these types of underlying fundamental or maybe even structural problems that produce all these types of business and investment risks. So therefore, I guess in the end, it's all about reducing these risks and reducing market risk volatilities that really come into play in making business and investment decisions. And I guess from where I come from, this is where rebalancing happens, it's not very easy to determine the timeline as to when the U.S., China, Europe, and all of these countries that have very serious structural imbalances will come, to deal with those problems and how long it will take. All we know is that these things take a lot of time. So therefore, in the meantime, I guess, there will be a lot of ups and downs, and the market, unfortunately, will have to deal with this. So therefore, it's really about balancing portfolio risks and then rebalancing this on account of how you see these different big players in the market, I guess, manage and handle their affairs. The other point that I wanted to just point out is that from a policy perspective, I think it's also interesting that the emerging market, and particularly the Asian emerging market, precisely because of the Asian crisis that we went through, I think had learned a great deal of lessons. And I guess following that, it has come to manage better its fiscal and monetary affairs. And I guess this is really what has shielded it. At the end of the day, when you manage these risks, then I guess the perception of investments and business risks, improve, and therefore that also affects investor confidence. And that is why, no doubt, at the end of the day, when you see very serious fiscal, monetary, current account imbalances in developed markets like US and in Europe, then you see that there is a natural aversion to go to these markets. And that's why I guess the sweet spot of investments has become emerging market Asia. Now, having said that, I guess lest again we fall into the same cycle and trap, and then I guess the world history repeats itself. I think there are a number of interesting lessons looking back in terms of the policy approach. And I guess here what I have just observed is that I guess indeed regulation plays a key role in the so-called the balancing of these risks. And I guess part of the reason why emerging market Asia, and even including the Philippines, has really avoided the problems that, the subprime crisis and the toxic assets, that most of these developed markets went through, is that their markets had not been freely, or they had not been totally deregulated. And I guess resulting from that, there's been a sufficient amount of regulation that took place, which precisely, I guess, brought about this balance and this shield. I'm not sure that's unwitting, but I think that's a deliberate, policy that most of these Asian markets and economies did. At the end of the day, resulting from that, when I guess better fiscal, monetary, and current account balancing has been done in performance, I guess the outcome proves itself that, when all of these things, I guess, broke out, clearly from the point of view of risks, we were a less riskier destination, to go into. So I just thought that at the end of the day, it's really all about balancing one's act in managing, again, both fiscal, and monetary affairs. And I think from a business perspective, this is, I think, what many in business and many investors are going to look up to in terms of assessing both investment, market and business risks going into this country. So I just thought that maybe I just share that perspective from the business and I guess from the investor perspective. Thank you very much.